Australian households installed as many batteries in the final 6 months of 2025 as they did in the entire preceding 5 years. That is according to new figures from the Clean Energy Council, showing the boom in demand for storage devices amid generous federal government subsidies. So let's get more on this from National Spokesperson for the Clean Energy Council, Chris O'Keefe. Chris, welcome. Thank you for your time this morning. Now, we know the uptake of batteries, it was there and increasing, but these government subsidies, they really boosted this. So just how extensive has this uptake been?
Hugely extensive, Gemma, and thank you so much for having me. It's effectively the cheaper home battery scheme from the Albanese government, and the Energy Minister, Chris Bowen, has strapped a rocket to home battery uptake right across Australia. It was 6 months between July and December of last year. Our figures, the Clean Energy Council figures, shows 180,000 home batteries were installed in that period. Now, as you said, that's as many batteries as we'd installed in the entire 4-year period prior to that. So there is no doubting whatsoever that Australians are seeing the value of home batteries. And why not? If you've got a rooftop solar system, you save roughly about $1,500 a year off your power bills. If you pair that with a home battery, and now they're cheaper to buy thanks to the scheme, you're saving yourself $2,100 a year on average from your power bill. So if the households can see the value in it, that's why the uptake is there, and the incentive from the government, just that makes it that little bit easier if it makes sense for the individual family budget.
Speaking of solar and uptake, it said that Australians may have reached a tipping point on the uptake of rooftop solar. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's the first time in many, many years that installations of rooftop solar has ticked under 300,000 units a year. It's still 250,000 installations for 2025. 250,000 Australian households decided to plonk rooftop solar on the roof of their home. So it's not like it's slowing down to the point of a drip feed, but there is some questions and there's some advocacy that the Clean Energy Council is doing about what the next frontier is for rooftop solar. 4.2 million Australian households have already installed it. So now we've got to look at, OK, what do we do for renters? What do we do for public housing tenants? How do we make people who live in apartment blocks and navigating the issues with strata? How do we make it easier for people to clearly install rooftop solar and see the benefits that homeowners are clearly seeing? But, you know, if we're looking at 4.2 million Australian households with rooftop solar, still 250,000 was installed last year. It's not slowing down. It is a national triumph, our uptake of rooftop solar. Per capita, we're probably the best in the world, Australia. So that's something that we should be proud of. And the reason people are doing it, Gemma, is because it saves them money on their bills.
And as we consider answers to the questions you just outlined there, just to give a lay of the land, how big a player is rooftop solar now, in the country's electricity system as a whole?
It's monstrous. If we look at the recent heat waves, especially in Victoria that we saw just last week, we saw temperatures sort of 45, 46, even knocking on the door of 50 degrees Celsius in some parts of the eastern seaboard. And heat waves are really a stress test for the energy system. Traditionally, that's the orthodoxy. It's a stress test. If it gets really hot, will the energy system and our electricity grid cope? Well, not only did it cope, 60% of all the electricity provided during that time was from solar. Rooftop made up the vast majority of that. You had 75% of all electricity generated during that period from renewables: wind, solar, big batteries and pumped hydro. Now, that is really, really showing the progress that this transition is making, and it's the handover period between coal and renewable is occurring right now, and we can see it just with that experience that we had with the recent heat waves.
And Chris, on batteries and on government subsidies for them, how long do we expect this to last?
Well, that's a matter for the federal government, Minister Bowen and the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. But as an industry, we're just really thankful that there is an incentive for people to take up home batteries, because these home batteries save you money and they're good for everybody. They're good for the grid. They're good for Australia when we're sucking up all this excess rooftop solar and storing it for use in the evening peak. And really, like we saw with rooftop solar, those incentives are very important to see broad uptake at scale, and whether or not they continue past the end date that the Albanese government has set is ultimately up to the federal government. But as an industry, anything that can get more batteries in people's homes, we're supportive of.
And Chris, customers who have been signing up to these virtual power plants, they're paying very low power prices relatively in Australia. If you can just briefly tell us how they work and to what extent do you expect to see a boom on this front?
Well, yeah, virtual power plants, effectively, it's like the conductor at the front of the orchestra. You sign up, you've got a conductor at the front of the orchestra, that's a market operator, and it's saying, OK, number 61 on this street, you go now. Number 24 on this street, you go now. It's to orchestrate all the different rooftop solar or the home battery systems in any given suburb, in any given locality, to ensure that it works best to meet whatever demand is happening at any point in the day. So by orchestrating that means you get your best bang for buck. It's the most efficient, it's the most productive way to use the electricity being generated. And that means if you sign up through your retailer, on average, people who do sign up to VPPs, you're saving about $100 a quarter, so an extra $400 a year is coming off your power bills. That's how it works, and really we need more people signing up to them, because the better we use the systems that we have in the suburbs and the streets right around Australia, the better we'll all be, because we've got a whole lot of electricity being generated on roofs and being stored in garages. We've just got to use it a bit more efficiently.
Chris O'Keefe, the National Spokesperson for the Clean Energy Council. Thanks for speaking with us.
Thanks, Gemma.